The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south. Sorry about that. Boy, what a great way to start the show. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. I'm John David Wells. On this broadcast, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We do make commentary. Commentary is not news. Commentary is opinion. Your opinion, my opinion, equally valuable. Let's share. Let's compare. Let's debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. And yes, this is yet another time for us to show up. And this time it's 9 o'clock Central Time. And we're here because, well, life happens. And so in the midst of my life, I have to move the show around based on things that are happening regarding where I have to do that stuff. So anyway, that being said, what we want to tell you is welcome to the broadcast. Good to have you here. So Timothy Walz is a guy who is running for vice president, courtesy of Kamala Harris. And this particular campaign is long on political rhetoric, but not especially long on detail. And the details that are coming out, unfortunately, are based on errant reporting that we have talked about on this broadcast. Amid highlighting his record on protecting and advocating for LGBTQ plus rights, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz slammed J.D. Vance's recent comments that school shootings are a fact of life. That is not what the vice president candidate on the Republican side said. That wasn't anything he had to say at all, in fact. It was, and it's been what I consider to be pretty dishonest. As a matter of fact, it's not just pretty dishonest, it's damn dishonest. What J.D. Vance was talking about was it was a fact of life that there are psychologically damaged people out there that know that schools are soft targets. That was the fact he was talking about. But it's been misreported. And that particular misreporting started with the Associated Press. And it went around the world and now has found itself into the political discourse. And it's wrong. It's wrong. On this broadcast, we depropagandize the mainstream media. And here is a perfect example of how propagandist media is indeed interfering with our elections. The Department of Justice just popped a couple of Russians for interfering with American elections. Interference by the mainstream media, specifically leftist mainstream media, is doing exactly the same thing, but there are no DOJ indictments for them. But this is a perfect example. 4 people were killed during a school shooting in Appalachia School in Winder, Georgia. 8 students, 1 teacher injured. Vance, 1 day after the shooting. This is USA Today reporting. Vance, 1 day after the shooting, called school shootings a fact of life and advocated for more security in schools. That is wrong. They do in the following paragraph, actually correct themselves in an offhand or backhand way. I don't like, this is a quote from Vance as printed in USA Today. I don't like that this is a fact of life, but if you are a psycho and you want to make headlines, you realize our schools are soft targets and we have to bolster security at our schools. That's how they cover themselves. But what they do is they misinterpret that statement. One day after the shooting, Vance called school shootings a fact of life. That's not the fact. The fact is that psychos see schools as soft targets. And when you're in the journalism industry and you're communicating in a mass media setting, you kind of sort of have to know how to speak and understand English. And that's not what AP did. That's not what USA Today did. But it is what we do. We actually know what Vance said, and we reported it as such. This is propaganda. And it's damaging. And it's awful. And that is a fact of life in the 2024 election. Walz was speaking to roughly 3,500 people at a dinner Saturday night. He highlighted he and Vice President Kamala Harris's record in advocating for LGBTQ plus rights. He noted Harris was among the first to officiate same-sex marriages in the country. During his time as a high school teacher in Mankato West in Minnesota, Walz was the faculty advisors for the school first Gay-Straight Alliance Club in 1999. He noted that one of the students who helped start the alliance, Jacob Reitan, was at the HRC dinner on Saturday. It's easy to be an ally. What really matters is knowing who's going to be at your side to stand up when it's hard. Throughout the dinner, Walz repeatedly punched back at Vance and the Republican presidential nominee, Donald Trump. Walz said Trump during his presidency didn't do anything to help end childhood poverty. They didn't do anything to lower child care costs. And then he referenced a rambling response that Trump gave recently to use tariffs to pay for child care. Did you hear that? He's got a plan on child care costs that no one in the world understood a damn word about. This is an opportunity, and this is not propaganda. This is political campaigning. What they're trying to do is they're now trying to cast Donald Trump as someone who is old and mentally deficient. Well, that's the way it is. That's the hard, cold fact of political rhetoric. And that is also a fact of life. While Walz was slamming the Republican ticket, he also said that Democrats have to run on a plan and not just hope if they want to win. That is a true statement. Then there's this. That very same vice presidential candidate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, has been subpoenaed by the House Education Committee as a part of the GOP lawmakers' latest investigation into the Democrat presidential ticket, probing into an issue that has long been Walz's kryptonite, child nutrition programs. Vice President Kamala Harris's running mate is focused on making his state the best place to raise a family and notably created universal school meals. But the administration's role in a fraud case involving children is now in the spotlight. A Minnesota-based nonprofit, Feeding Our Future, is accused of misusing $250 million of taxpayer money from a COVID-19 relief fund intended to feed children in need. Chairwoman Virginia Fox, the Republican from North Carolina, wrote in a letter that the committee is investigating Walz's oversight of the Minnesota Department of Education, which administered the federal school nutrition program. Quote, as the chief executive and highest ranking official in the state of Minnesota, you are responsible for MDE and its administration of federal child nutrition programs. Agriculture Inspector General Phyllis Fong, Commissioner of Education Willie Jett, and U.S. Agricultural Secretary Tom Vilsack were also subpoenaed. So, what is that? Is that lawfare? Is that using the system to go after your political enemies? Is that something that the Republicans should be doing? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. They say you fight fire with fire. Is that what we want? There were an awful lot of people that were extolling the virtues of indicting President Trump and all these trials. And they're saying, my gosh, this is the best thing that could possibly happen. We hate that Trump and we should use the system to nail him. The problem with it is it's all blowing up in their face. Did Republicans not learn that lesson so far? Well, it seems so. Because here they're going after Tim Walz in a lawfare, what looks like lawfare. They say all's fair in love and war. Things are decidedly not fair in politics. But when those people that I'm referencing that are reveling in the fact that Donald Trump has all these legal issues surrounding his campaign, you have to ask yourself a question. Do you want more of that? Do you want more lawfare or less? All those people supporting those cases against Trump are supporting that politicians use this as the new political plaything. Do we really want that as voters in the United States? I would say no. Because with every political distortion of the Justice Department, the FBI, America's intelligence community, Americans have less and less confidence in their actual government, which is bad. I've said on this broadcast many, many times, a lot of what America is psychological. We all agree on most everything having to do with the fact that the United States is a great country. We believe in most of the precepts that our legal system, our justice system, actually administrates. We believe in all that stuff. Most people follow the rules because they believe the rules are just. But what happens when the rules are not just? What happens when the rules are not just is chaos. Political enforcement of law is how great countries become pools of anarchy, death, destruction, and dysfunction. That's how all that happens. When you start using law to enforce politics, you have stepped into the abyss. You have. One more thing on Vice President Walz, and this is unfortunate. Let me get this to you from USA Today. If Minnesota Governor Tim Walz wasn't already relatable, he sure is now. Like so many Americans across the country, he disagrees with his family about politics. After a weekend of scathing comments from an estranged brother, the Democrat vice presidential candidate is facing even more related problems, including second cousins wearing customized pro-Donald Trump shirts. The public family feud kicked off on Tuesday when a photo of 8 people wearing Nebraska's Waltz for Trump, or Nebraska waltzes for Trump, circulated on social media, predictably went viral. And that's what they've got going. USA Today confirmed the photo of Walz family members was originally posted on X, formerly Twitter, by Charles W. Herbster. He's a Nebraska cattle rancher and former Republican gubernatorial candidate in the state. Rod Edwards, a representative for Herbster, confirmed the picture was shared by the descendants of Joseph Francis Walz, the brother of Walz's grandfather. And this is equally disturbing. Donald Trump has people in his family. Donald Trump has people in his family that are not supporting him. And now Vice President Walz has people in his family not supporting him. And that does, by the way, I think highlight a great deal of the division in this nation. I've lost friends. I have lost friends based on previous votes for Donald Trump. By the way, am I endorsing Donald Trump? No. No. Am I voting for Donald Trump? I'm not going to say. Why? Well, because I'm a news guy. And I'm going to be fair and I'm going to be honest. And I'm not going to besmirch that by coming up with something that can be misconstrued and will be misconstrued, as we've seen so many other times in our nation. In other words, we report the news. Politics, that's a completely different kettle of fish, and we're not going there. This is the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the air costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 817-379-2172. I'm waiting for somebody to castigate me for keeping the show moving around from a standpoint of timing. We're on at 9 this morning. We'll be on through 11 o'clock because life happens. My day job is moving the show around because my day job moves my life around. It's the way it works. So Senator Bernie Sanders, speaking of crazy uncles and strange relatives, gave a candid answer when asked about Vice President Kamala Harris flip-flopping on several of her progressive policy positions with less than 2 months to go until the November election. Take a look at this. This is from NBC News and Meet the Press. Bernie Sanders may have stepped in it again. Check this out.
You have described Vice President Kamala Harris as a progressive. She has previously supported Medicare for all. Now she does not. She's previously supported a ban on fracking. Now she does not. These, Senator, are ideas that you have campaigned on. Do you think that she is abandoning her progressive ideals?
No, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election. My own view is slightly different. I think that in America today, there are a lot of people, rural people, working class people, who no longer believe that the United States Congress and government represents their interests, too dominated by big money interests. So I think that there is something wrong personally when we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee healthcare to all of our people, despite spending twice as much per capita. That is why I support Medicare for all. She does not. She has another approach toward moving toward universal healthcare. But again, I think on issues like expanding Medicare, by expanding Social Security and lifting the cap on taxable income that the rich put in so we can raise Social Security benefits, the need to raise the minimum wage from a starvation 7.25 minimum wage to a living wage. I think if you campaign on those issues, raising taxes on billionaires, you know what? She's going to win, and I think she could win big.
Well, let me just ask you then, big picture, do you still consider Vice President Kamala Harris to be progressive, Senator?
I do. Look, she is not where I am. But I think, for example, when she talks about making the child tax credit permanent, and we did that in the American Rescue Plan, we lowered childhood poverty by 40%. Kristen, we should not have, as the richest country on earth, one of the highest rates of childhood poverty in the world. When she talks about building 3 million units of affordable housing, that's a big deal because we have a major housing crisis in America. When she talks about passing the PRO Act to make it easier for workers to join unions, that's a big deal because we have to expand the union movement so the workers get decent wages. So yes, her views are not mine, but I do consider her progressive.
All right, so there's Bernie Sanders because he was trapped in a political discussion with NBC News, Kristen Welker. Then he sold himself out again. He said right at the beginning, Kamala Harris is doing whatever she has to do to win the election. He also pointed out that her values haven't changed, but her policies have. How is she going to pursue her values when they are at odds with her policies, as pointed out by Bernie Sanders? There are commentators that said, my goodness, this is a damaging piece of tape. Well, it is. What it does is it shows, in my view, just my humble opinion, it shows just how much there is a lack of substance and a more emphasis on style and rhetoric that will hopefully carry the day, as opposed to hardcore policies that may not. And that has to do with the Harris campaign. Once again, the Democrat Party anointed her as their candidate. They knew everything that she had said in the past. Why she's running away from it, I have no idea. All it's going to do is make her look less and less credible the closer we get to the election. She should stand up for what she believes. To say my values haven't changed, what I believe hasn't changed, but my policies have, no, that's not going to.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to Low Cost Airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to Low Cost Airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse. And I put this on X. I put this out over the weekend. The mother of the teenager suspected of killing 4 people during a shooting at Winder, Georgia, called to warn a school counselor before the attack. Colt Gray apologized to his mother, Marcy Gray, on the morning of the mass shooting at Appalachia High School, sending an alarming, cryptic message via text that prompted the mother to warn the school something could be wrong. His grandfather told CNN, confirming a story first provided by the New York Post. "I'm sorry, Mom," the text read, according to Marcy Gray's father, Charles Palamas, who said he was standing near his daughter at the home in Fitzgerald, Georgia, when she received the message. The mother called the school about an unspecified extreme emergency involving Colt Gray sometime before the shooting began. Marcy Gray's sister, Annie Brown, told the Washington Post and later confirmed to CNN. A 10-minute call was placed from Marcy Gray's phone to the school about 9:50 a.m., according to the Washington Post, 30 minutes before the police were notified of the shooting. According to the Post, Brown had shared the phone plan with the family, allowing her to see a long log of the calls made by her sister. After a 10-minute phone conversation, Palamas said his daughter and her mother began the 200-mile drive from Fitzgerald to Winder. Marcy Gray later confirmed the call to the Washington Post, which reported she declined to elaborate on what prompted her to call in the warning to the school, but said that she had shared information with law enforcement. "I am so sorry and cannot fathom the pain and suffering they are going through right now," she told the Washington Post in a text. Colt Gray has been charged with 4 counts of murder after committing the mass shooting, according to prosecutors. He will be tried as an adult and is expected to face additional charges in connection with the wounded and injured victims. Marcy Gray broke her silence on Saturday, apologizing to those affected for the absolutely horrific shooting. The Barrow County School District did not return CNN's request for comment. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation referred CNN's request for comment to the Piedmont Judicial Circuit District Attorney's Office. CNN reached out to the Piedmont Judicial Circuit District Attorney's Office over the weekend. CNN has reached out to the Barrow County Sheriff, Judd Smith, who previously said he had no knowledge of the phone call before the shooting. Yeah. Yep. And then there's more. Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton was on the CNN State of the Union and had a lot to say about this. And this is what he had to say. But before we get to that, let me play you something that he's going to refer to. And that is a very short clip from Kamala Harris regarding what she believed about schools, the militarization of schools, and how schools needed to have less cops. This is what she said. This is another one of those pieces of tape or pieces of video that will indeed haunt Kamala Harris throughout this campaign. Look at this.
And then also, again, what we need to do about demilitarizing our schools and taking police officers out of schools.
Yeah, taking police officers out of school. Now, Tom Cotton did say something about that. Let me play this from State of the Union on CNN that happened over the weekend when it was brought up by Dana Bash. Check this out.
Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance said after the shooting, quote, "I don't like that this is a fact of life," adding, "We don't have to like the reality that we live in, but it is the reality we live in." Do you accept that school shootings like this are just a way of life now?
No, absolutely not. And J.D. Vance doesn't either. He said that he doesn't want them to be a fact of life. And this week, the Associated Press got caught distorting that quote from him so bad that they had to retract it. But here's what we also know about that shooting, even as we're still gathering all the facts. It wasn't as bad as it might have been because there was a police officer on the school premises that was able to neutralize the shooter. Kamala Harris wants to take police officers out of school. She said it in the past. That's her position. It's not surprising because she's consistently taken positions against law enforcement throughout her career as a San Francisco liberal. If that police officer hadn't been there, if Kamala Harris had gotten her way, many more students and teachers might have been killed.
She was attacked when she ran for president in the Democratic primary. They were calling her Kamala Cop because she was the opposite of what you were saying. But I just want to stay on this topic of school shootings because you're right, it could have been so much worse. And they do have measures in place in this school. But the fact that there are mental health problems, and we don't know exactly what was going on with this 14-year-old, 14, but there are mental health problems all across the world right now. It's bad. The difference between other countries and this country is that it is being expressed with gun violence. Is it not time to figure out a way to mitigate that part of the equation when it is affecting our children so often?
Well, I think one way to mitigate that is to enforce the laws we have on the books. Donald Trump did that. We had a severe crackdown on criminals using guns. Since Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have taken office, they have deprioritized that. They haven't focused on enforcing the laws that we have on the book. They focus on trying to take guns away from law-abiding citizens. That's not going to solve our crime problem. What will solve our crime problem is actually cracking down on gun crimes. They've directed U.S. attorneys in many cases not to pursue gun charges because those gun charges come with stiff mandatory minimums, which Kamala Harris opposes.
So are these some of? I mean, do you see any action in the offing at all in the wake of this once again, or is it just going to be enforce the laws on the books?
Well, again, enforcing laws on the books is one way to stop gun crime. Another way is to keep police officers at schools.
And to do a lot more with security, as I brought up on this broadcast many, many times. The most important thing is to have metal detectors on every doorway, on every school in the United States of America. Why hasn't that happened already? Well, because politicians are involved and they refuse to make that call. And that is absolutely, in my humble opinion, so I got to go over here. That is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. We can and do make sure that no one carries a weapon on an aircraft. How do you do that? Well, you go through a metal detector. And that's the way you do that. And if there's something on your person that triggers the metal detector, they wand you. And in some cases, search you physically. I know it's happened to me. Look, we know how to secure kids. We know how to do it. Why haven't we done it yet? I don't know. Then there's this. The stories are coming out regarding
14-year-old Bree Jones was the first.
Sorry. What we're seeing is some of the stories from some of the kids in the school at the time. And this is also a really important piece of video. I want you to see it here on the Wells Report as we continue for this Monday morning.
14-year-old Bree Jones was the first student to lay eyes on Colt Gray, just moments before she says he began his deadly rampage.
Like, he knocked on the door. I saw him holding a bag and just pulling the gun out. I'm not sure what kind of bag was it, but I seen him pulling it out of a bag, and like the gun was so big. Like,
Gray was her classmate, and their class the first he tried to enter, she tells CNN.
I always look out the door before I open it. That's just like it's a habit my mom taught me.
But as her teacher instructed her to let him back in, she said,
no, he has a gun. If I would have opened the door, then like he would have got every single one of us in that class. And I don't want me, my teacher, my friends in the class, and my other classmates, I don't want none of us to get hurt. So I just didn't go. Like, I thank God that I did not open that door.
Jones said Gray moved on to her sister's class down the hall.
Colt shot my teacher multiple times.
Malaysia Mitchell says she'll never be able to erase the image of her teacher, Richard Aspinwall, begging for help.
And we had to drag our teacher's body and fully into the classroom. We heard him take his last breath.
Mitchell says she felt powerless.
I've been trained what to do, like give CPR and other stuff, but I couldn't because I couldn't help him. So I ended up having a seizure.
The 14-year-old suspect who allegedly caused all this pain in court today, with families of the victims just feet behind him.
You're charged with 4 counts of felony murder.
Just minutes after the suspected shooter left the courtroom, where he did not enter a plea, his father walked in for his own first appearance.
2 counts of felony murder in the second degree. You're charged with 4 counts felony involuntary manslaughter.
And he's charged with 8 counts of second-degree felony cruelty to children. An arrest warrant for Colin Gray alleges he gave his son a firearm when he knew his son was a threat to himself and to others. It's only the second time a parent has been charged in connection with a mass shooting carried out by their child.
The GBI has arrested Colin Gray.
Last April, in an unprecedented case, the parents of Ethan Crumley were each sentenced to 10 to 15 years for involuntary manslaughter. The DA in the case says Colt Gray may face additional charges.
You can anticipate there will be new charges on Colt Gray because we never addressed the other victims in the school.
At Appalachia High, some students left wondering how they can possibly move forward.
Do you think you'll be able to come back to school?
Yes, because I'm not going to walk in fear.
Residents, teachers,
Yeah,
current
and
former-
so that was a couple of words from students who had been there, and you noticed that CNN was talking an awful lot about the charges against the father. It is the second time. It should not be the only time. As a matter of fact, moving forward, the people who are responsible for their children having weapons are the parents, period. They should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I don't believe the second-degree murder charges are going to work against Colin Gray. But involuntary manslaughter, all day. Absolutely all day. And to try to put out that, and there are some news outlets that are doing this, they are asking the question, are parents liable for the shootings that their children enact based on the fact that the parents made it possible for them to have the weapons to do so? The answer is yes. I'm interested in your thoughts on that. 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. I've never understood why parents weren't held responsible. You can have weapons in your house and children in your house at the same time, but you can be responsible for it. You can be responsible as a weapons owner and a child parent. And you can put those two things together. I know it. I've done it myself. My weapons are behind a locked door, along with the ammunition. And my son, who lives with us, doesn't know what that combination to that door is. Now, I don't have to worry about Colt because, well, we spent a lot of time demystifying weapons to him when he was young, when he was just a kid. We sat at the kitchen table and we cleaned weapons together. And he knows the dangers of those weapons because I've taught him that. But all of that being said, I have also taken steps to make sure that those weapons are not accessible. And parents can do that. And parents should do that. And parents of children under the age of 18 are totally responsible for what kids do with weapons, period. And I don't understand why anybody would question it. I don't have any understanding really about how these people can, worry about whether or not Colin Gray is guilty or not guilty, but is somebody who should be arrested. He absolutely should have been arrested. And I'm mystified that all of this is not just plain straightforward, something that we deal with on a daily basis. Now, school shootings are not a fact of life in the United States. But not securing those children at school, that is a fact of life in these United States. The fact that parents are responsible is a fact of life in these United States. Parents must do whatever is necessary to make sure that they are in touch with their children and to make sure that they have some idea of what's going on inside their heads. And you also have to be parents. And what you have to not do is you have to not put violent arguments between parents in front of the kids. And all of this idea of kids being able to essentially dictate the terms of their own lives, that is abdication of parenting. That's all it is. Complete abdication of parenting. Your kid might think that he's somebody else. Well, what you have to do is reinforce who that person is. And you have to do that with parenting. And why we don't do that in this society at this time with these kids? Well, I think that's because we're paying attention to the wrong people. Your thoughts? 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172, the Monday edition of the Wells Report in progress.
Vallarta.
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to Low Cost Airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
This is the Wells Report. Good morning. John David Wells at your service. 61 years ago, right over there somewhere, Dealey Plaza to be exact, a United States president was shot to death in broad daylight on film. And we still don't know the whole story. That, however, is something that is likely to change as more and more details about that shooting come to light. I'm suspecting that in the next couple of years, we're going to know an awful lot more about that assassination, and none of us are going to like what we find out. The New York Times is reporting on a story about another film of that day that has resurfaced. Nearly 61 years ago, Dale Carpenter Sr. showed up on Lemon Avenue in Dallas hoping to film John F. Kennedy as his motorcade passed. But the president's car had already gone by. He recorded only some of the procession, including the back of a car carrying Lyndon Johnson and the side of the White House press bus. So Mr. Carpenter, a businessman from Texas, rushed to Stemmons Freeway, several miles further along the motorcade route, to try again there, moments after Kennedy had been shot. He captured an urgent and chaotic scene. The president's speeding convertible, a Secret Service agent in a dark suit, sprawled on the back, Jacqueline Kennedy, in her pink Chanel outfit, little more than a blur. That film is now available for purchase, courtesy of an auction house in Boston. This is the report from the BBC on the latest piece of information regarding the assassination of an American icon.
This film is historically important. The first frame of the film, you can see the Secret Service car, and again, people holding their signs, but Mr. Carpenter missed filming the president just by 5-10 seconds. And because he didn't get the president on camera, he wants to go up on Stemmons Freeway because he knows they're going to the Trade Mart. In just seconds, the president's car is going to go screaming by at 80 miles an hour. This film is historically important visually, but as an artifact, it's extremely collectible. It is the first original reel of film you could really buy from November 22nd, 1963, since the Zapruder film. You have this moment on this film, and I couldn't wait to see it, where Limo 1 is speeding 80 miles an hour down the Stemmons Freeway, heading to the hospital, and Agent Clint Hill is still on the car, holding on. And as the car passes by, you can clearly see Mrs. Kennedy in the back seat and Clint heroically still holding her down, and they're on their way to attempt to save the president's life. What I'm hopeful is other families in Dallas will go right up and go through their 8mm films and see what else is there, because these films need to be curated and need to be digitized. They need to be saved because the film does deteriorate.
It does. And so do the memories, and so do the facts, and so on. When I first moved to Dallas, I waited over a year before I went to Dealey Plaza because I had a theory. And I was hoping that I was wrong, but I wasn't. And that's another kettle of fish. And we'll talk about that some other day. But sooner or later, what we don't know is something we will all know about that shooting in Dallas on that November afternoon in 1963. Now, I'm not especially sure that I like the fact that that there is an auction, specifically in Boston by RR Auctions. I'm not especially sure that I believe that that's something that should be in somebody's collection, although it has been in a family collection for a long time. For decades, Mr. Carpenter's 8mm snippets of what transpired in Dallas, November 22nd, 1963, has been a family heirloom. When he died in 1991 at the age of 77, the reel, which included footage of his twin boy's birthday party, was passed to his wife Mabel, then to a daughter Diana, finally to a grandson, James Gates. Later this month, the footage is set to be for sale in the latest line of assassination-related imagery to surface publicly after decades in comparative obscurity. The auction house says it's the only known film of the president's car on the freeway as it sped from Dealey Plaza, the site of the shooting, to Parkland Memorial Hospital, where Kennedy was pronounced dead at 1 p.m. Footage shot by Abraham Zapruder, a bystander, has long provided disturbing images of the assassination itself, one of the most traumatic and closely examined events in American history. Mr. Carpenter's film showed what happened before and just after the Zapruder film was shot. The first section is a prosaic scene of the president's motorcade, the second a race for help imbued with all the uncertainty that filled the moments after the shots rang out. Through Mr. Carpenter's film, just over a minute long, it contains nothing likely to affect the debate over Kennedy's death. Several experts still it's an important addition to the mosaic of images recorded that horrifying day in Dallas, Texas. Like I said, sooner or later, we're going to find out more about that day. Sooner or later, we're going to find out exactly what happened that we don't know already. And when that happens, things will be different in this nation. I'm sure of it. This is the Wells Report for Monday, the 9th day of September, year of our Lord 2024. Thanks very much for being with us today. Coming up in just a couple of moments, well, there's a big debate tomorrow night. People are already talking about it, and we'll have some of those comments in just a moment.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. On this broadcast, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We depropagandize the mainstream media. We also make commentary. Commentary is not news. We differentiate between news and commentary on this broadcast because commentary is opinion. You have yours, I have mine, they're equal. Let's share them. Let's compare them. Let's debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. These are amazing. Smartphones. And the things you find on smartphones are essential to this nation. I happen to be a very lucky broadcaster that puts this broadcast every day on X. I can't thank the people that carry this broadcast enough. The amount of money that would be required to be able to do this on my own is impossible. And so X is, and Elon Musk, who is perhaps the greatest defender of free speech in our nation today, put $44 billion on the line to protect free speech on X, is someone that I can't thank enough. I hope one of these days I'm able to. I don't know that it's going to happen, but you never know. One of the things about this is, in X and the smartphones, is that you get breaking news, and this is good. Kamala Harris has unveiled her economic and social agenda ahead of tomorrow night's debate with Donald Trump, a blueprint for middle-class revival and climate action. Simon says, I didn't realize that I was going to say that. Simon says Kamala Harris and Governor Walz have put forward a comprehensive policy agenda focused on supporting middle-class families, promoting economic growth, and addressing key issues such as healthcare, housing, small business, and climate change. Their plan includes cutting taxes for more than 100 million working and middle-class Americans by restoring and expanding the child tax credit and earned income tax credit, ensuring that no one earning less than $400,000 a year will see a tax increase. They're committed to making rent more affordable, homeownership more attainable, and building millions of affordable housing units. They claim to provide financial assistance for first-time and first-generation homebuyers with help to build intergenerational wealth. Harris and Walz also have focused on supporting small business by increasing access to capital and driving venture capital into overlooked regions. Their plan aims to expand the startup expense deduction and remove bureaucratic obstacles that help entrepreneurs thrive. They are committed to tackling corporate price gouging, lowering healthcare costs, including insulin and prescription drug prices, and expanding affordable healthcare for all Americans. They emphasize strengthening Social Security and Medicare by ensuring that the wealthiest pay their fair share, building on the success of their legislative and accomplishments like the bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act. Additionally, Harris aims to further advance American leadership in key industries like clean energy, semiconductors, artificial intelligence, while fighting for union rights and raising the minimum wage. On education, Harris and Walz's plan will continue their efforts to make education a pathway to the middle class by investing in public education, making college more affordable, and reducing student loan debt. They also focus on providing affordable health care for children, affordable child care, long-term care, and support for working families. On climate, they pledge to tackle the climate crisis, advance environmental justice, and create clean energy jobs while lowering costs for energy for all Americans. There has been a list on the Donald Trump website of his policies, and we have long called on this broadcast for Kamala Harris to do this. She has. Here is the list. Cut taxes for middle-class families. Make rent more affordable and home ownership more attainable. Grow small business and invest in entrepreneurs. Take on bad actors and bring down costs. Strengthen and bring down the costs of health care. Protect and strengthen Social Security and Medicare. Support American innovation and workers. Provide a pathway to the middle class through quality and affordable education. Invest in affordable child care and long-term care. Lower energy costs, and tackle the climate crisis. This, by the way, has been put out as a breaking news article by Simon Atiba. Simon Atiba, a member of the White House press corps, has a site on X that you should subscribe to. It is Simon Atiba, Ateba, at Simon Atiba is where you can find it on X. Once again, there is a subscription service. I suggest that you follow up on it. So there are comments on the chat room before this breaking news came out, and says they should see Cabrini in Chicago, great example of government housing. That is a fact. What Kamala Harris seems to be talking about are more government housing projects. Did they work before? No. Will they work again? Don't know. But that's what she's at least put out as a policy statement. And now, with tomorrow night's debate in the offing, we now can see more as she explains all of these policies. We can see more about what she wants to do as president of the United States. And that is good. Finally, we have a policy debate that is beginning. And it began today on this 9th day of September, year of our Lord 2024. Let's see. So he just verified Harris is the wolf, saying she'll be a vegetarian if elected. Yeah, well, that's the problem with Kamala Harris, and this is part of the policy debate. That policy debate saying, okay, I have my values. My values have not changed, but my policies have. Okay, that's something to keep in mind as you move forward to this. Regarding the shooting that we talked about last hour, Linda Lee says that parents have to be held accountable. I agree. If you know kids are struggling, have strange feelings or obsession with guns or hurting people, that needs to be reported. We have guns mostly locked up. Okay, she's talking about herself. Children need protection. They do. Parents aren't disciplined enough themselves in some cases to see what happens when safety is not in place in each of the homes that own guns. Now, obviously, to have weapons in your house, you make a decision for protection. And those weapons are useless if they're behind a locked door. But responsible parenting is essential. And when that falls down, then indeed, what ends up happening next is there is tragedy. And so when it comes down to these policies, Gary says she's a communist. Well, there are a lot of things to be said about that, and they're going to be said tomorrow. The USA Today newspaper reports when the history of the 2024 presidential election is written, the one and only debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump will be remembered as an event that changed the course of the race. A few weeks after Biden's disastrous performance, he dropped out, or was pushed out, depending on your point of view. Kamala Harris stepped in as the Democrat nominee. This week, the second debate of the presidential contest will take place, this time between Harris and Trump. The stakes are high for both candidates. Polls show a close race with just 2 months left until Election Day. For Harris, the debate in Philadelphia tomorrow night will provide a chance to show she can stand up to Trump and introduce herself to voters who feel they know little about her. For Trump, the debate is an opportunity to define Harris on his terms and try to regain some of the momentum he lost following the Democrat National Convention in Chicago. In a race this close, a strong debate performance could give either candidate an edge going into the final weeks of the campaign. Don't expect the debate to be an earth-shattering or game-changing as the Biden-Trump confrontation on June 27th. I don't know why they said that. I guarantee you this is going to be an earth-shaking, game-changing event. We're not going to see anything that dramatic happen again, said David Greenberg, a history professor at Rutgers University in New Jersey and an expert on presidential debates. Few presidential debates have a major impact on the race, but that doesn't mean debates don't matter, said experts. I don't know what they're talking about. The Biden debate with Donald Trump was a disaster for the president. As said on this broadcast, not only did it finish his presidential aspirations for re-election, it finished his presidency. And Kamala Harris is going to have a stellar performance to be able to change that reality that exists in Americans' minds. Now, there are people who have their minds made up. That's fine. There are people who don't. Those are the people that this debate matters the most to. And yes, indeed, it is essential that we have these debates. This so far is the only one scheduled. I hope that's not going to be the case. But indeed, it just might be. And so as we come to this pivotal debate tomorrow, what are your thoughts on it? What would you like Kamala Harris to say? What would you like Donald Trump to say? Who do you want to win the debate tomorrow? We'll talk more about this, obviously, tomorrow in the run-up to that debate. However, at this particular moment, I'm interested in your thoughts. 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. The Wells Report is in progress, and we thank you very much for being a part of it. We will continue with our broadcast coming up in just a little bit. This is the Wells Report. Back with more in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells, thanking you very much for joining us on this broadcast. If you have something to say, by all means, say it. We would sincerely appreciate it if you would. Our telephone number, 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. What we have noticed in this presidential contest is something that I find really remarkable. Democrats supporting Trump, Republicans supporting Harris. In this particular case that we're talking about right here, this is what I consider to be a very interesting circumstance. Former President George W. Bush, a Republican, does not plan to make an endorsement or voice how he or his wife, former First Lady Laura Bush, will vote in the presidential election in November, this according to their spokesman, said over the weekend. President Bush retired from presidential politics many years ago, said the spokesperson, who did not wish to be named. The announcement came a day after Bush's vice president, Dick Cheney, announced he would cross party lines and vote for the Democrat presidential candidate, Kamala Harris, over Republican former President Donald Trump. Cheney, who served as vice president under Bush from 2001 to 2009, said on Friday, in our nation's 248-year history, there's never been an individual who's a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. Harris said on Saturday endorsements of her by Dick Cheney and his daughter Liz, a former U.S. representative, were courageous for putting country ahead of political party. Mike Pence, who served as Trump's vice president for 4 years, said he will not endorse his former boss, but has not backed Kamala Harris. Well, okay. All I can say on that is that we're not in a position, at least in my view, where hold on just a second here. I got to do something quickly. And we're not in a position where what I think we're going to have is a scenario whereby we have a clear, clean understanding of who supports who. Now, all I can say is that I have made several assertions that moderate Republicans were indeed the most dangerous part of the political system. Moderate Republicans essentially exist to shall we say, support the Democrat agenda. And that Democrat agenda is something that should be under an adversarial basis between the parties. The Democrats should be adversarial to Republicans and vice versa. Bipartisanship is the creation of a working class, or excuse me, the creation of a political ruling class. And that is not something that I believe is helpful to anybody in the United States. And so President Bush is a moderate Republican. Dick Cheney is a Republican leftist, in my view. This is just my opinion. And when we start talking about all these things, we have to understand that indeed what we have is we have an opportunity here whereby we don't know what's going to happen next. We just don't. And that is something that, once again, puts us all in a very odd position, doesn't it? As you make your decisions, make sure you take all of this and keep it in mind, because it's going to be essential to the people of the United States. This is the Wells Report. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Greetings. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number is 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Earlier in this broadcast, we cast aspersions on the integrity of the Associated Press. Other people have done so as well, including United States Senator Tom Cotton. And when we look at all of this and we look at the media abandoning truth, choosing sides, this is not something that's opinion. This is something that we have seen for ourselves. It's the news. And so we report it as such here. But it's not just the Associated Press. The Associated Press is being joined by CNN. Normally, CNN, when it comes to the television network, CNN is partisan. That is all there is. But the website itself, CNN.com, has always been pretty good from a standpoint of, in most cases, reporting the news in a fair way, except this time. And as we get closer and closer and closer to this pivotal election day, an election day that is pivotal to the future of the nation, I expect we're going to see this more, not less. But as I say at the beginning of every hour, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze for fact and bias. We point out both, and we depropagandize the mainstream media. This from CNN.com, unfortunately, is the propaganda that we try to translate into fact. Not a lot of facts here, but we'll try nonetheless. Former President Donald Trump Saturday threatened prosecution and long-term prison sentences for election officials and political operatives who he suggested would cheat in the 2024 election if he again wins the presidency. Trump, and this is the second paragraph, Trump again falsely claiming Democrats engaged in fraudulent behavior in 2020, said that he, attorneys, and legal scholars are, quote, watching the sanctity of the 2024 presidential election very closely. On X, he said, when I win, he actually put it up on Truth Social and then put it on X. Those people that cheated will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. So, in this particular case, Trump again falsely claiming Democrats engaged in fraudulent behavior in 2020. That is not something you can say in a journalistic effort, not in my opinion. You can't say that he is falsely claiming Democrats engaged in fraudulent behavior. Is it because the Democrats are evil and engaged in fraudulent behavior? No. It's because we haven't had comprehensive investigations into those elections that he talks about. And that's because the judicial branch at all levels of the United States government has stood back and not allowed those investigations to continue. Lawsuits thrown out on standing, legal technicalities, etc. Any way they could to keep them from happening. I'm talking about the judges now. Some of this is leaking through. Some of it is leaking through into the public space. But to say, based on what is obvious, that certainly the 2020 election was anomalous, to go the other direction and say, well, they cheated. Well, that's conspiracy. To say everything was perfect. My God, Trump again falsely claimed Democrats engaged in fraudulent behavior. That's not real either. It's not because Democrats are bad and Democrats are tried to cheat the election in 2020. It's because we haven't had an election to find out an investigation to find out definitively whether that happened. And that, by the way, isn't just Republicans. That's not just Democrats. Republicans have refused to put a congressional committee in charge of finding out what happened in that election. Why? Most recently, the Education Committee decided to subpoena Tim Walz for supposed fraudulent disbursement of money that was designed to get kids food in his state. But they won't pursue what happened in the 2020 election? Why? Why is that? And now we have this CNN article saying that President Trump is falsely claiming any of this. not the case. Oh, sure, he claims that there are problems. Yes, he claims that Democrats engaged in fraudulent behavior. But can you say that it's false? No, you can't say it's false. When I win on Truth Social, he put it on X2, those people that cheated will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Is that not something we could all get behind? If indeed our elections are, shall we say, manufactured for the sake of the political effort, doesn't that hurt everybody? Doesn't that destroy democracy at its most basic point? The answer, of course, is yes. If elections mean nothing, then where is the democracy? Democracy hinges on free and fair elections. And so why we are not pursuing that, and that is a bipartisan effort on the part of both Republicans and Democrats, and frankly, I believe in my assertions. Boy, I sure love allergy season in Texas. But my assertions that the Republican Party is essentially a handmaiden of the Democrats, and they work together to both establish a ruling class and indeed affect one on the people of the United States. I can see why they wouldn't pursue any kind of government commission to find out what happened in the 2020 election. That was a failure. It was not just a failure for Republicans. It was a failure for Americans of all political stripes. Without demonstrably free and fair elections, there is no democracy. And whether you believe that happened in 2020 or not is moot. We should not have doubts. We should not have doubts because we should have jumped all over this to find out whether or not any of this was true. If indeed the 2020 election was perfectly fine, then you can then report that Donald Trump is falsely claiming it was stolen from him. But we don't know that. That's part of this problem. Trump's threats of prosecution, parts of his repeated efforts to cast doubt on the integrity of the 2024 election, come as early voting will soon be underway in a number of states. Trump has routinely suggested he would weaponize the justice system to go after his political opponents if voters return him to the White House, threats that began after he was first indicted in Manhattan on the hush money case more than a year ago. So you are now hearing CNN talk about how Donald Trump himself will weaponize the justice system. Who's weaponized the justice system before Trump? Would that not be the Democrats? Would that not be the deep state? That, by the way, leads to President Obama, who was the first president in my memory to weaponize the various executive branch agencies to a political end. And so if indeed that's the case, then why would you then accuse your political opponent of what you yourself are doing? Well, to sow confusion. And that is exactly what's happening here. It's part of a propaganda effort. We point out propaganda on this broadcast. Donald Trump is going to weaponize the justice system to go after his political opponents. How about saying it this way? Donald Trump is going to use the justice system to run to earth those people who abused American law for the sake of their politics. And is that not something that all of us could get behind? Do we really want the deep state to dictate the terms of how we live life in America based on their politics? Or should it be based on their missions? DOJ handling the law, the intelligence community handling what we need to know about the world around us? The answer is yes. All those people that say, oh, that Trump is just a worthless guy who thinks the election was stolen because he's a sore loser. Remember, if that works, and it's worked so far, if that works, we're going to see more of it. I'm not saying the 2020 election was bogus. I'm not. But if that level of electioneering is successful, we'll see more of it. If we're able to make it impossible to find out the actual truth about those elections, we'll see more of that too. Donald Trump is ahead of the curve talking about the 2024 election. Okay. He is. But on the other hand, is he spreading conspiracy theory, or is he giving us a warning? That is in the eye of the beholder. This article continues, and this is just, and it's not even an opinion piece. I mean, this is exactly what we do wrong in this nation when it comes to our media and reporting the facts. Trump, who regularly spreads conspiracy theories about the 2020 election and falsely claims there was widespread voter fraud, added over the weekend, I know better than most, the rampant cheating and skullduggery that took place by Democrats in the 2020 presidential election. It was a disgrace to the nation. Okay, that's his opinion. Despite Trump's repeated claims, the 2020 election, and here we go with the propaganda. Despite Trump's repeated claims, the 2020 election was highly secure, and he lost to Joe Biden by more than 7 million votes. There is no evidence of voter fraud, even close to the widespread enough to have changed the outcome of the election in any state. Once again, that's dishonest. It comes down to about 44,000 votes. That's not widespread voter fraud. That's just enough to get things done. And you have to remember that President Obama was first elected in 2008 with 69 million votes. How did Joe Biden come up with 81 million votes? How did that happen? And so once again, we look at this and we go, there weren't any problems with the 2020 election? Really? Something went dramatically wrong. And we don't know because we haven't investigated it. And we should have. And why we didn't, it all falls right into the laps of politicians on both sides. We're electing the wrong people. This is how you build a ruling class. This is how you essentially disenfranchise every voter in the United States. And it follows the classic terms of warfare. Divide, then conquer. They have divided people into believing that the 2020 election was perfect from people who don't believe it was perfect. They have divided the American people, and they're winning on that effort. I'm talking about these politicians of both sides. That's what's happening here. So in a post on Sunday, Trump also called on the FBI to investigate mail-in ballots in the key battleground state of Pennsylvania, which are set to go out to voters soon, cited an interview with an election expert, in quotations, conducted by former Fox News host and far-right commentator Tucker Carlson, that claimed a fifth of the state's mail-in ballots were fraudulent. The former president has for years falsely claimed that mail-in voting leads to fraud and pointed to supposed examples in swing states, including Pennsylvania in 2020. Despite these claims, Trump's campaign over the summer launched a new program aimed at promoting absentee mail-in and early in-person voting ahead of the November election. It's something else we talked about on this broadcast. Something else we broadcast. Okay, so Bill Barr, like him, hate him, it doesn't make any difference, talked about mail-in voting and how the potential for fraud was enormous. And he was exactly right. That's before all this happened. So to look into mail-in voting being used as a way to subvert a free and fair election, that doesn't seem unreasonable to me. The only problem with the unreasonableness I see in this is not the actual willingness to do it, but that the FBI would be doing it. Okay. So the new program aimed at promoting absentee mail-in and early person voting, like I said on this broadcast, that's what happened last time in 2020. And apparently it worked. And I said at the time, do we want to see more of this or less of this? I dare say we wanted to see less of it. The idea that Trump has of handwritten ballots, not so much handwritten, but certainly hand-checked ballots, paper ballots, that's not a bad idea, especially since we still don't know exactly what happened in the 2020 election. We don't. And so, election officials have been the victims of pervasive threats as the 2024 election draws closer. CNN has reported elections operations have beefed up security in the face of harassment of election workers and disinformation about the voting process. Well, one person's disinformation might be someone else's honest reporting. And since this is clearly not honest reporting, then you're in a position where, okay, you've got propaganda here, and it's designed to essentially dissuade voters from believing what many people believe and reinforcing what many people also believe. The division of the nation. When what we need to do is we need to come together by making sure that our elections are fair and indeed accurate. Trump said over the weekend he was eyeing everyone from lawyers and donors to voters. When I win, those people that cheated will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences so that this depravity of justice does not happen again. Please beware that this legal exposure extends to lawyers, political operatives, donors, illegal voters, and corrupt election officials. Those involved in unscrupulous behavior will be sought out, caught, and prosecuted at levels, unfortunately, never seen before in this country. Again, if you look at the subject matter of this, which is a free and fair election, is there any reason for people not to support this? Look, these particular investigations can find out that the lawyers, political operatives, donors, illegal voters, and corrupt election officials are indeed not corrupt, but they are completely honest and doing whatever they need to do to comport with American law. Investigations work both ways, you know, at least honest ones. So what is the problem in supporting the idea that we need to go through all of this and make sure that these elections are on the up and up? I can't see a thing that is a problem. Trump still faces his own charges over election interference stemming from efforts to subvert the 2020 election, including a 4-count indictment in a federal case. A separate election interference case against him in Fulton County, Georgia, has been indefinitely paused. Well, the 4-count indictment in his federal case is also a problem, as is the hush money case, because federal evidence was used, people who worked for Donald Trump during his presidency, thus in the inaction of his official duties, essentially pervaded that hush money trial. And now, since the Supreme Court says for official duties, presidents enjoy absolute immunity, all that evidence has to be thrown out, along with the trial and along with what is an errant jury verdict based on improper evidence. So all of this is blowing up. Trump still faces his own charges, as we said. That federal case, I don't think it's going anywhere, and I think the hush money case is vaporized before the Democrats' very eyes. And I'm speaking about Alvin Bragg, who was the district attorney in New York City. It's vaporized. Unless Juan Marchand wants to completely ignore reality. And that may indeed be possible. I'm not sure, but it is indeed possible. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. What do you think? Telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. The chat room is moving. And Gary says, yeah, both sides are guilty. Both sides are guilty. Why? Because they want to rule us, not be servants to us. This is the Wells Report.
Vallarta.
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells thanking you for being a part of the broadcast. 817-379-2172. And so America's space program goes on. For those people that are new to the broadcast, I'm a space agency kid. My dad finished his career as the lead ground controller for the Space Shuttle project. And we've been living around this my whole life. Boeing had a Starliner spacecraft take a couple of astronauts up to the International Space Station. Starliner is supposed to essentially replace the Soyuz capsules that are both used as astronaut transportation vehicles and as resupply vehicles to the ISS. Well, as it turns out, Starliner had some problems in space. There were helium leaks in the helium system used to power some of the thrusters, and there were thruster issues as well. And it was deemed too dangerous to bring the two astronauts that went up to the ISS in Starliner to come back home. And so Boeing made the decision, after exhaustive efforts to figure out whether that spacecraft was going to fly safely, to leave the astronauts there and bring the spacecraft home. That is exactly what they did.
Touchdown. Starliner is back on Earth. That landing coming at 11:01 and 35 seconds Central Time, 10:01 and 31 seconds Mountain Time at White Sands Space Harbor at the U.S. Army's Missile Range in New Mexico. Our landing and recovery
touchdown. We've heard touchdown. Starliner back on Earth. It was successful. Kristen, let's go to you. This is very significant.
Command the
Yeah, Boeing's got to be breathing a big sigh of relief. NASA, too. I mean, you still got to get the recovery crews on the ground to make sure everything looks okay. But I think it's almost safe to say, you know, if Butch and Sonny had been inside Starliner on this return to Earth, they almost certainly would have been okay. But, you know, NASA's saying with all those issues with the thrusters and the helium leaks, it just was not a risk that they were willing to take when they had a backup vehicle ready to go. But so now the big question is going to be, does Starliner need another crewed test flight or perhaps another uncrewed test flight before it can be certified and be a fully functioning part of NASA's commercial crew program? You've got Boeing and SpaceX who were doled out these contracts in 2014 to ferry NASA astronauts to and from the International Space Station. So far, only SpaceX has been able to do it. So what happens now? Because this landing and re-entry appears to be successful, does Boeing have to do another one of these test flights before it's certified? A lot of money is on the line, Laura. I mean, remember, this program over $1 billion over budget already, years behind schedule. So that's really what Boeing and NASA are going to be focused on now. But first, you got to deal with the recovery. So what you're going to be seeing in just a few minutes are all these recovery crews, Boeing and NASA recovery crews that have been stationed at a nearby staging facility at White Sands, New Mexico. They're going to slowly converge on the capsule, do some checks, make sure it's safe before they proceed and officially end this mission, but a successful landing.
And so it was a successful landing, and it was a triumph for Boeing. You got to keep some things in mind. This is, while not necessarily as much of leading edge technology as it was during the Apollo era, is still, these are new spacecraft. They have to be tested. There will be problems. And Boeing knows that. And so do most people that understand how this process works. And so when all this comes down, Boeing did just fine. Starliner did just fine. It is a test flight, and indeed there were problems. The website, which is excellent, by the way, called space.com. Boeing Starliner capsule just returned to Earth without astronauts, marking the beginning of a new set of investigations by NASA. Starliner left the ISS, the International Space Station, Friday evening, then aced a landing in New Mexico just after midnight on Saturday. The touchdown brought an end to the Crew Flight Test, CFT, Starliner's first ever astronaut mission, but no astronauts came down in the capsule. Starliner experienced problems with its reaction control system. Those are the thrusters that keep the spacecraft pointed the right direction. And when you're coming back through space into the atmosphere, you have to have the blunt side of the spacecraft pointed the right direction. If you don't, you lose the spacecraft in anybody or any material that happen to be inside the spacecraft. And you do that with thrusters. So the astronauts, by the way, will fly home in a SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule, the one that will fly to the company's Crew 9 mission, which is set to launch to the ISS on September 24th. But what is next for the Starliner mission is a bigger question. NASA tasked SpaceX and Boeing in 2014 with sending astronauts to and from the ISS. SpaceX, borrowing knowledge from its Crew Dragon spacecraft, flew a Crew Dragon test mission to the station 2019 without astronauts, passed all metrics, allowing the company to launch its debut astronaut flight test the following year. That effort was successful. SpaceX quickly moved to operational long-duration astronaut missions to the ISS for NASA. It's in the middle of its 8th such flight, is gearing up for the 9th, coming up, as we said, later this month. Starliner is a new design, required quite a few adjustments. Its first mission, an uncrewed test flight, September 19th, failed to reach the ISS because of software glitches. The capsule succeeded on its second try in May of 2022, but experienced a few issues with its propulsion system during that flight. The Crew flight test had hiccups as well, namely helium tanks and thruster issues. 5 of Starliner's 28 RCS thrusters failed as it chased the ISS down shortly after launch. Remember, those are the thrusters that keep the spacecraft pointed the right direction. The mission was supposed to last 10 days. NASA kept Starliner at the ISS for 3 months as it analyzed the thruster problems. What they do is they take the spacecraft, they build it in what is cyberspace. In other words, it's in a computer, and that simulation or those simulators are what they used, missing these 5 thrusters and the problems that created other thruster issues. Those, by the way, those thrusters appeared to be linked to overheating, a result of both the frequency of the thruster use and their placement inside heat-retaining shelters on the outside of the spacecraft, known as doghouses. Bulging seals, insulation shedding appeared to restrict the flow of propellant to the RCS thrusters. They're going to find out all about this. They'll take that capsule, they'll disassemble it, they'll figure out everything they need to figure out, and they will indeed be able to flight certify this spacecraft quite soon. And once they do that, then America is in a position where it will have much more autonomy when it comes to getting astronauts to and from the International Space Station. So Boeing said, hey, we've got some things we know we've got to work on. We're going to fix those things, and then we'll fly when we're ready. Good. But for those people that are looking at Boeing and saying, my gosh, the company has lost it, in some cases that may be true. But in the case of Starliner, this is the leading edge. You're going to have problems. And they did. And they are doing a great job because they figured out exactly what they needed to do and brought the capsule home in one piece, which is good. This has been the Wells Report. Thanks very much for being a part of this show. And once again, we will be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. again. 9 a.m. right here on the Wells Report. Please, by all means, join us then. And until then, take good care, be safe, make good decisions. See you tomorrow.